Hi, this is Professor Pito, and I'm back with another help video. In this video, I want to talk about hypothetical syllogisms, and in particular, I want to help you understand the differences between a valid and an invalid form of hypothetical syllogisms. The first thing that you got to recognize is that when someone's making a hypothetical syllogism in an argument, they're actually arguing a chain of events. So they're basically saying that one event is happening on the condition that another event happens. That's why we talk about P and Q. So let me just use a random example to illustrate my point. If I were to construct the syllogism, if I throw my cell phone up in the air, it will fall down. Now, am I saying that I'll catch it? Or that if it falls in the ground, it will break? No, all I'm saying is that if I throw it up in the air, it will fall down. That's a really basic example of a hypothetical proposition. It's just claiming a chain of events. In this case, if P, I throw my cell phone up in the air, then Q, it will fall. That's it. That's all that I'm saying. The other thing that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out whether a hypothetical syllogism is valid or invalid is that you just have to assume that it's true. And that's really hard when students are looking at an argument in front of them. They want to figure out in real life whether it's true or false. Well, this is a deductive argument, and so all you have to do is just assume that if P, then Q. It's just a chain of events, and you have to assume that it's true so that you can move forward. So instead, just break the argument down into P and Q. Don't try to think about examples in real life when you're looking at a hypothetical syllogism. For instance, let's take a look at a hypothetical syllogism that people often use in order to explain this type of deductive argument. Starting with this premise: if the pavement is wet in the morning, then it rained last night. The pavement is not wet this morning, therefore it didn't rain last night. Now, is this argument valid or invalid? Well, let's break it down into its consequent and its antecedent. Here we see the word if, so we know that the following proposition is the antecedent. Okay, good. It goes on to say that not P, it didn't rain this morning, and therefore it didn't rain last night. If not P, therefore not Q. If you think about this as a real life example, you can think of all sorts of explanations for why the pavement wasn't wet this morning. That's why this argument is invalid. It's called denying the antecedent. Just because the sidewalk's not wet doesn't mean that you can infer that it didn't rain last night. In a valid hypothetical syllogism, all you can infer is that if P happens, then Q will happen. And the only other thing that you can infer from that, if it's true, is that if Q didn't happen, then P didn't happen. It doesn't go the other way around. But again, if you try to think about this as a real life example, you also can assume that just because it didn't rain last night, that it's not necessarily the case that the sidewalk won't be wet in the morning. In real life, we can't absolutely assume that this is true. That's why you need to remember that when you're thinking about a hypothetical syllogism, one thing is happening on the condition that something else happened before it. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that when you're looking at this argument, you're just assuming that it's true. Don't try to think about it in real life, because that's the only way to infer it's negative. If not Q, then not P. That's denying the consequent. You can only do two things in a hypothetical syllogism: affirm the antecedent and deny the consequent. See you in the next video.